Happy Thursday, everybody. September the 25th, 2024. Happy unless you are a diehard Detroit Tigers fan. Again, they lost last night against the Cleveland Guardians. Game 3 of that 3-game set, the finale against the Guardians, is tonight at 6:40. Troy Melton is going to get the start for the Tigers. How long they'll keep him on the mound, regardless of how well he's pitching, that's anybody's guess. That's the million-dollar question. But even the bigger million-dollar question is, can the Tigers hang on to keep at least a playoff spot in the American League? Right now, they're a game back of the Guardians. You might as well call it 2 games back because Cleveland wins the season series. So these two teams end up deadlocked at the end of the regular season. The Guardians will get the tiebreak and they'll get the home field advantage, which right now looks like, should the Tigers end up not winning the division or should Cleveland get that last playoff spot, they'll play each other in the opening round of the playoffs. So right now, it just depends on who finishes where in the American League Central. Now, I know there's a chance, should Detroit win and they win out against Boston or tie Boston to end the regular season, the Tigers get the tiebreak over the Red Sox, but that would mean they would play the New York Yankees in the opening round of the playoffs. So 6-1, half a dozen of the other. The big thing is Detroit still with a 1-game lead over the Houston Astros for that final wild card spot. The Tigers, after their game tonight against Cleveland, they go to Beantown. They've got 3 this weekend to close the regular season against the Red Sox. Still looking okay are the Tigers. The magic number, I believe, for wild card spot against Houston is 4. Maybe it's 3 now with the tie break, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Detroit with a record of 85-73. Houston at 84-74. Cleveland is at 86-72 with that 1-game lead over the Tigers. So, man, I got to tell you, it's very, very interesting what's going to happen towards the end of the year. Here's the thing to keep in mind, too. Should the Tigers win a playoff spot or the division get in the opening round, if they don't need them, the opening round series would be Skubal pitching on the first game, Casey Mize the second, and Flaherty pitching the third game if necessary. So that's not a bad pitching go-round, starting pitching lineup, you would think. But here's the thing. If Detroit is in a winner-go-home scenario on Sunday, would they pitch Skubal on 4 days rest? Now, if they took the Jim Leyland approach, no, they wouldn't. He would save everybody until the potential playoff game, clinching game be damned. But we'll have to wait and see on that. That's going to be the big question this weekend against Boston. Do the Tigers do anything to alter that pitching rotation on Sunday if it is a must-win scenario to get a playoff spot? If it's for the division, I bet you no, they won't. Because regardless, they'll play Cleveland either way, either at home or in Detroit for that best out of 3 series in the wild card. But if it means that Detroit's got a must-win game on Sunday, will they pitch Skubal on 4 days rest? That's something to keep an eye on, and we're certainly going to do that for sure. All right, let's take a quick look at Major League Baseball standings if we can't bring them up here on an extravagant few minutes. As we mentioned, the Tigers trailing the Guardians by 1. In Major League Baseball, watch out, though. We talked about the Yankees potentially hosting a wild card round. They have caught the Toronto Blue Jays for first place in the American League East. Boston is currently 3 games out of the lead there. I don't see Boston catching those guys in the division, but it sets up an interesting scenario. It could be Toronto dropping down into the wild card position, so we'll keep an eye on that. The Yankees, all of a sudden, winning 4 straight, are tied for first in the American League East. In the West, the Mariners now, they've got a 5-game lead over the Astros, so basically they have clinched the American League West, so they're going to get probably the 2nd seed in the opening round of the playoffs, so they're going to get a bye because they've got a 3-game lead over Cleveland, and they've got a 4-game lead over Detroit, and I believe they've got the season series over the Tigers. So Seattle basically is the 2nd seed. Houston, we mentioned, 5 games out, so they're done in the division. They trail the Tigers by 1 game for that last wild card spot. All right, in the National League, the Phillies have got everything all wrapped up in the National League East. They got a monster lead over the Mets. The Brewers have a 6.5-game lead over the Cubs, so they're the champs in the Central Division. The Dodgers now with a 2.5-game lead over the Padres. Big win for them last night over the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Padres have clinched a wild card spot. But let's talk about the wild card races. We mentioned it. If the season were to end today, the Yankees would be the top wild card team, but they're tied with the Blue Jays, so they've got a playoff spot lined up no matter what. The Red Sox have the number 2 seed. Detroit, 2 games back of the Red Sox for the second wild card spot. Again, should those 2 teams end up tied at the end of the regular season, the Tigers get the tie break. So we'll keep an eye on that. Houston, the last team with a chance to get back in the wild card hunt. They're 1 game behind Detroit. In the National League, this is where things get very, very interesting. The Cubs and the Padres, they've got their playoff spots clinched. The Padres more than likely going to be the 5 seed in the American League. The Mets have the final playoff spot, but Cincinnati and the Arizona Diamondbacks are only 1 game back for that final wild card spot. The D-backs have a weekend set with the Padres to see if they can maybe climb over the Mets. And St. Louis, still with an outside shot, probably won't get in. They're 2.5 back. But it's going to come down to the Mets, the Reds, and the Diamondbacks for that final wild card spot in the National League. So, again, some great baseball races to end the regular season. It's going to be fun to keep an eye on that over the weekend. All right.